There are people in your life right now who wear the mask of loyalty, love, and friendship, but their spirit is in direct rebellion against your destiny. These are not ordinary enemies. These are strategic assignments from the enemy. They come not just to oppose you, but to drain you, to distract you, and to derail your future. The challenge is not just their presence, it's their hiddenness. You don't fight spiritual deception with human intellect. You don't detect witchcraft with suspicion. You discern it through the realm of prayer. Prayer is not just a religious duty. It is a key of access, a gate of revelation, and a tool of divine exposure. When you pray, especially with precision and focus, you activate a spiritual searchlight that reveals what the natural eye cannot see. Witchcraft thrives in secrecy. It camouflages itself as care, counsel, and companionship. It pretends to be for you while subtly working against you. But when you commit to praying intentionally, especially at midnight, for 3 nights in a row, something shifts in the spirit realm. The midnight hour is not just symbolic, it is strategic. It is when most spiritual transactions occur. It is when the enemy sows seeds in darkness. But it is also the hour where the vigilant believer interrupts and intercepts those dark agendas. For 3 nights, you are not begging. You are standing. You are declaring. You are aligning your will with heaven's justice. Your prayer is simple but powerful. Father, if there is anyone in my life sent by darkness to hinder my destiny, expose them. Reveal their face. Uncover their influence. Show me the truth clearly and unmistakably. You are not praying for revenge. You are not praying to destroy someone. You are praying for truth. Because when truth is revealed, bondage loses power. During these 3 nights, pay close attention to your dreams. Write them down. Visions, impressions, even subtle signs. Do not ignore them. The spiritual realm will often communicate during these sacred hours. You might wake up with clarity about a person or experience a sudden shift in how you see someone. Don't dismiss it. The Spirit never revealed what he is not willing to handle. When a witch is exposed in your life, it will often come with a shock. It may be someone close. It may be someone you never suspected. But do not fear exposure. It is divine mercy. God reveals to heal, not to humiliate. Your next step is not retaliation. It's obedience. Walk away when necessary. Sever ties in peace. Pray for them and guard your own spiritual gate. After exposure, don't get comfortable. Keep your spiritual armor on. Keep praying. Keep fasting. Keep declaring. Witchcraft may retreat, but it often tries to return through new faces. But now that your eyes are open, you are no longer a target. You're a warrior. Nights. That's all it takes. But your faith must be focused, your heart must be clean, and your spirit must be expectant. The darkness cannot hide forever. Not when light has been summoned through the weapon of intentional prayer. The truth is this: no witch, no spell, no charm, no manipulation can stand in the presence of real focused prayer. So tonight begin. Midnight is coming. Let heaven speak and let darkness flee. Prayer is more than ritual. It is a force that reaches into realms unseen and unsettles what is hidden. When used with purpose and intention, prayer becomes a divine tool that activates the authority of heaven to penetrate layers of deception and secrecy. Every individual has people around them whose motives may not align with their words, whose presence may not match their assignment. It is not always obvious who is sent by God and who is assigned by the enemy. This is where the authority of prayer begins to take its rightful place, not as an act of fear or desperation, but as an act of dominion. When you engage in prayer, you are not merely asking for blessings or breakthroughs. You are summoning divine intelligence into your situation. You are calling upon a power that sees beyond the visible, hears what is whispered in secret, and knows what is hidden behind smiles. Prayer is spiritual radar. It scans what your emotions might overlook and reveals what your logic cannot detect. It is not always the loud enemy that causes the most damage. Often it is the silent pretender. And the greatest deception is to believe you can always identify them with human wisdom. There are people who operate under spiritual influences that are not aligned with the light. They may disguise their intentions. They may offer help with strings attached. They may encourage you in public and curse you in private. You cannot expose this kind of presence with confrontation or speculation. You expose it with consecration. When you go into prayer, particularly with the aim of revelation, you are giving God permission to show you what needs to be seen. Not for drama, not for vengeance, but for clarity, safety, and protection of your destiny. God responds to the cry for truth. When your heart is clean and your prayer is pure, heaven releases insight. The authority of prayer lies not just in what it can request, but in what it can reveal. Many people pray for favor, but forget to pray for discernment. Favor may bring opportunities, but discernment preserves them. Through prayer, you don't just gain access to blessings, you gain access to hidden agendas, spiritual attacks, emotional manipulation. All of these can be uncovered when prayer is backed by faith and surrendered will. It is not uncommon to feel a shift in your atmosphere when you begin praying for exposure. Conversations change, energy shifts, people become uncomfortable, and some may even distance themselves without reason. That is not coincidence, it is revelation. Prayer stirs the spiritual climate. It calls light to enter dark corners. It activates the authority given to you to stand in truth and walk away from deceit. The authority of prayer is not passive. It is assertive, precise, and powerful. It dismantles illusions, disarms spiritual traps, and delivers divine clarity. You are not helpless. You are not at the mercy of people's hidden motives. You have access to a spiritual protocol that sees beyond mask and reveals what needs to be seen. When you pray, you align yourself with heaven's agenda, and heaven never leaves its people blind. There is no witch, no curse, no manipulative force that can continue to hide when you invoke divine light through prayer. That's the power you carry, not because of who you're connected to. When you speak, heaven listens. When you ask, truth responds. And when you declare, darkness flees. That is the authority of prayer. To not only protect you, but to reveal what must be removed. Discerning witchcraft is not about paranoia or suspicion. It's about developing spiritual sensitivity that allows you to detect what is operating beneath the surface. Witchcraft rarely presents itself in obvious forms. It cloaks itself in charm, in helpfulness, in familiarity. It may come through a friend, a mentor, or even a religious figure. It may sound encouraging while speaking words that subtly sow doubt, fear, or confusion. That's why the natural eye is insufficient. Only spiritual eyes, sharpened through consistent communion with God, can truly see what is being masked. Spiritual sensitivity is cultivated, not assumed. It does not come from emotional reactions, but from intentional alignment with the Spirit. When your inner life is quieted before God, your discernment becomes clear. You begin to notice things others overlook. You feel unease in environments that look peaceful. You hear contradictions in words that seem flattering. You sense manipulation behind actions that appear generous. These are not accusations. They are divine alerts from within, telling you to be watchful. Witchcraft is not just spells and rituals. It is influence rooted in rebellion. It is control masked as care. It is seduction disguised as support. Its goal is not always to destroy you immediately. Sometimes it simply wants to derail you subtly, to pull you off course without you even realizing you've drifted. And the longer it remains undetected, the more damage it causes. That is why spiritual sensitivity is not optional for those who walk in purpose. It is vital. The more time you spend in prayer, in stillness, and in the Word, the more sensitive your spirit becomes. You begin to pick up shifts in atmosphere. You begin to feel weight where there should be peace. You notice how certain people only show up during your lowest moments. How they always have advice but never bear fruit in their own lives. You become aware of patterns. cycles of confusion, delay, or emotional instability that always follow certain interactions. These are not random, they are signs. Spiritual sensitivity is also about listening when God speaks, even when the truth is uncomfortable. Sometimes God will reveal that someone close to you is operating under a wrong spirit. You may want to ignore it. You may try to explain it away. But when God reveals, He's also giving you a chance to respond correctly. Ignoring divine discernment is costly. Sensitivity without obedience is useless. You must have the courage to act when God reveals the presence of manipulation or witchcraft in your environment. Witchcraft does not only manipulate situations, it often manipulates your emotions. It will make you doubt your clarity. It will drain your energy. It will confuse your thoughts. These are not just emotional struggles, they can be spiritual attacks. When you find yourself constantly questioning your identity, your decisions, or your future after interacting with someone, take that seriously. That disorientation may be the residue of spiritual influence at work. You must be bold enough to question the connection and bring it before God in prayer. Discerning witchcraft is not about becoming suspicious of everyone. It is about staying spiritually awake. It is about understanding that not every voice is from God. Not every connection is divine. And not every opportunity is sent to elevate you. When your spirit is tuned in, you begin to distinguish the difference between what is good and what is godly, between what is sent and what is assigned. That level of clarity protects your peace, preserves your purpose, and ensures that no witchcraft, no matter how well disguised, can prosper against you. So stay sensitive. Stay in the presence of God. Let your spirit stay alert and tuned to His voice. Because when the enemy cannot deceive you, he cannot defeat you. The power of strategic midnight prayer is profound because it taps into a divine timing that is uniquely significant in the spiritual realm. Midnight is not merely the middle of the night, it is a sacred threshold. A time when the natural world quiets, but the spiritual realm becomes highly active. It is during this time that the enemy often works in hiddenness, planting seeds of confusion, discouragement, and destruction. Yet, it is also at this time that the prayers of the righteous have the greatest impact. Midnight is the hour of spiritual warfare. And prayer during this time is strategic and potent. When you engage in prayer at midnight, you are stepping into a spiritual dimension that is often overlooked. Midnight is a moment where divine purpose aligns with the weight of the moment. The Bible speaks of the midnight hour as a time of great spiritual breakthroughs. It is when Paul and Silas prayed in prison that the ground shook, their chains fell off, and doors opened. Their prayers, prayed at midnight, released the power of God to shatter prison walls. Similarly, your midnight prayers are not just words in the air. They are declarations that shake the foundations of spiritual opposition, releasing God's power to set you free. When you pray strategic midnight prayer, is not about mindless repetition, but about purposeful alignment with God's will. The night is a time when demonic forces attempt to sow discord and influence. The enemy loves darkness, where hidden agendas can go unchecked. But when you pray strategically at midnight, you disrupt the enemy's work. You declare the light of God's presence over every dark area of your life. You challenge the forces that seek to keep you in bondage, and you release heaven's justice over your situation. This is not the time for weak, passive prayers. This is a time for prayers of declaration, prayers that shake things loose, prayers that dismantle strongholds. In these midnight moments, it's important to understand that the atmosphere itself is charged with spiritual activity. It is when the enemy's tactics are at their height that your prayers, released in faith, can cause the greatest shift. This is why you should approach midnight prayer with intent. It's a time when you must be spiritually alert, focused, and ready to push through every barrier. God will often reveal hidden things in these hours, things that may have been veiled from your natural sight. You may receive visions, dreams, or spiritual nudges that will help you in your warfare. The midnight hour is ripe for revelation. Moreover, strategic midnight prayer is not a one-time activity. It is a sustained commitment. This is why you are called to pray for 3 consecutive nights, each night building upon the other. Consistency is key. The first night might seem quiet. The second night may stir your spirit. And by the third, you may start seeing results. It is in the consistency of your prayers that the breakthrough comes. You are aligning yourself with God's timetable, and your persistence is pushing the heavens to open. Midnight prayer also serves as a way to establish spiritual dominance over your life. By choosing to rise in the darkest hours of the night, you are declaring that you will not be a victim of the enemy's schemes. Instead, you will be a vessel for God's glory, a vessel that stands in authority over the powers of darkness. You're taking authority over your environment, your mind, your future, and your relationship. You refuse to let the enemy plant seeds of fear, doubt, or confusion. You commit to standing firm, declaring the victory of Christ. In these moments of strategic prayer, be specific. Call out the areas where you feel oppressed, the people who are working against you, the plans that seem to be taking shape behind the scenes. Speak directly to those situations and declare God's truth over them. Declare that no weapon formed against you will prosper, that every plan of the enemy will be exposed and destroyed, and that the light of God's truth will shine in every dark corner. Midnight is the time to be bold, to stand firm, and to make declarations that change the spiritual atmosphere around you. Remember, the midnight hour is not just a time, it is a portal. When you pray at midnight, you access a realm of spiritual power that is not always available during the day. It's a time when you can stand firm in your authority and witness the enemy flee. As you engage in strategic midnight prayer, you don't just expose the works of darkness, you also position yourself for divine intervention, for breakthrough, and for the miraculous. And when you pray with faith and determination, nothing is impossible for God. When you pray to expose a witch or any hidden enemy in your life, your intention must be rooted in truth, not retaliation. Praying for exposure is a divine act of alignment with justice and light. It is not about punishing someone, it's about bringing clarity where there has been confusion, light where there has been darkness, and peace where there has been hidden spiritual warfare. If your prayer is fueled by bitterness or vengeance, you shift your position from a vessel of light to an instrument of judgment. And when you step into the realm of judgment, you leave the covering of God's protection. God does not honor prayers that come from a vengeful spirit. He honors prayers that come from a pure heart, a heart that longs to walk in truth and righteousness. That's why when you pray for exposure, you must first examine your own heart. Ask yourself, am I seeking to see the truth, or am I trying to prove I'm right? Am I asking God to bring light, or am I hoping for someone's downfall? Your motivation matters in the spiritual realm. The posture of your heart determines the effectiveness of your prayer. Exposure is not about public shame. It is about divine revelation. When you pray for God to expose someone operating under a wrong spirit, you are asking for His wisdom, His timing, and His method. Sometimes, exposure comes quietly. A person's true colors begin to show. Their influence fades. They walk away without conflict. Other times, but in all cases, the goal is not humiliation, it is freedom. Freedom for you to walk boldly in your purpose without hidden sabotage. When you seek revenge, you contaminate your own spirit. You open the door for pride, anger, and bitterness to take root. And once these spirits take hold, you become spiritually vulnerable to the very darkness you're praying against. Revenge is a distraction. It keeps your eyes on people instead of on your purpose. It drains your energy, warps your perspective, and delays your growth. That's why the most powerful prayer you can pray is not, Lord, make them pay, but Lord, reveal the truth and guide my steps according to your will. True power is found in restraint. Is found in trusting that God sees what you cannot and will handle what you cannot control. Praying for exposure is a sign of spiritual maturity. It shows that you desire purity in your relationships, alignment in your circle, and clarity in your journey. You're saying, God, I don't want to walk with anyone who is pretending to be for me but is secretly against me. Reveal it so I can walk in truth. Expose it so I can be free to move forward without sabotage. This kind of prayer also requires patience. God doesn't always reveal everything at once. Sometimes he reveals in layers. Sometimes he tests your ability to recognize what he's showing you. Are you willing to let someone go when their spirit becomes exposed? Are you willing to walk away without creating drama? That's the test. Exposure is only part of the process. What you do with that exposure determines whether you rise to the next level or repeat the same cycle. As you pray for 3 nights, focus your heart on truth. Ask God to purify your motives. Let your prayer be sincere. Father, if there is anyone in my life that you did not send, reveal them. If anyone is operating with a spirit of manipulation, jealousy, or witchcraft, expose it. But don't let me carry bitterness. Don't let me seek vengeance. Let me walk in discernment, forgiveness, and freedom. That's how you win. Not by proving a point, not by destroying your enemies, but by walking so deeply in truth that deception can no longer find a place to hide. When you pray for exposure, not revenge, you leave room for God to work fully. And when God steps in, what is hidden will be revealed. What is false will be broken. And what is meant for you will never be delayed by what was sent to destroy you. Dreams and visions are spiritual languages that transcend the boundaries of the natural mind. They are tools heaven uses to communicate what cannot be explained in mere words. When it comes to the exposure of hidden enemies, especially those operating through witchcraft, manipulation, or deceit, dreams and visions play a vital role. They give us access to information that is beyond physical observation. Through dreams, God unveils what has been concealed. Through visions, he provides insight, direction, and warning. During the 3 nights of focused prayer, especially at midnight, your spiritual senses become heightened. You are no longer just functioning in the natural realm. You are tuned into divine frequencies. This is when dreams often become more vivid, more detailed, and more symbolic. They are not always straightforward, but they carry deep meaning. Sometimes the exposure you are seeking does not come through a direct confrontation or a sudden discovery. It comes through a dream where someone's true face is revealed, or a vision where a pattern of betrayal is shown in picture form. God uses dreams to bypass our intellectual filters. While you are asleep, your conscious mind is at rest, and your spirit becomes more open to receive. In this state, the Holy Spirit can reveal things that your waking mind may resist or ignore. A face may appear in your dream that previously looked harmless. A scenario may unfold that shows someone working against you. You might wake up with a strong emotional reaction or a sense of clarity about someone or something. These impressions are not accidental. They are indicators that your prayer is working and God is beginning to respond. At the same time, visions, whether seen during prayer or in the moments between sleep and wakefulness, can act as divine flashlights into the hidden realm. These are not imagination, they are spiritual downloads, quick glimpses into what the enemy is planning or who is involved in spiritual sabotage. Some people see symbols like snakes, shadows, broken mirrors, or closed doors, each with spiritual meaning. These symbols often represent deception, hidden attacks, or blocked paths caused by unseen influences. God uses these images to instruct and guide you toward the truth. But with revelation comes responsibility. You must treat dreams and visions with seriousness and discernment. The first step is to record them. Keep a journal beside your bed during your 3-night prayer focus. Immediately after waking, write down what you saw, how you felt, and any names, places, or symbols that stood out. Don't brush anything off as random or insignificant. A revelation rarely comes in full sentences. It comes in layers. Over time, these pieces form a pattern. And if you're faithful to document and pray over them, the meaning will begin to unfold. You must also test the spirit behind the dream or vision. Not all dreams come from God. Some are from the soul, emotions, fears, or desires. Others may be sent as confusion from the enemy. That's why spiritual discernment and scriptural grounding are essential. If the dream leads to fear, division, or pride, it must be tested. But if it leads to clarity, protection, or conviction, it is often divine. As you grow in your spiritual walk, you begin to distinguish the voice of God even in your sleep. Exposure through dreams is not about condemnation. It is about preparation. God shows you so you can respond wisely. If he reveals a witch, a manipulator, or a deceiver in your life, it's not for you to attack them. It's for you to set boundaries, shift your circle, and walk away from what was never sent to walk with you. The dream is the warning. Your actions afterward are your wisdom. Never underestimate the power of your sleep season. It is during rest that the Spirit works most deeply. Don't dismiss your dreams as fantasy. They may be the very key God is using to save you from hidden traps. So as you pray for exposure, open your heart to hear, but also open your eyes to see. Because sometimes the truth doesn't come with a knock at the door. It comes with a vision in the night. And when it does, don't ignore it. Receive it, discern it, and act accordingly. That's how you walk in spiritual authority, with your eyes wide open and your steps guided by divine revelation. After exposure has taken place, when God has revealed the presence of witchcraft, manipulation, or any hidden spiritual attack, the work is not over. In fact, the next phase is just as critical, maintaining your protection. Exposure is only the beginning of your freedom. What follows must be a deliberate and disciplined strategy to guard your spirit, preserve your clarity, and prevent the enemy from re-entering your life under a new disguise. Protection is not passive. It requires active spiritual maintenance. Once God shows you the truth about someone or something, the first step is obedience. You cannot go back to what God has revealed as dangerous. Many people receive exposure but return to the same relationships, the same environments, or the same habits that made them vulnerable. This is not discernment. This is spiritual negligence. When God removes the veil, you must also remove the access. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to make a scene. You simply need to close the door quietly, permanently, and in peace. Protection also comes through spiritual consistency. One of the greatest mistakes people make after breakthrough is spiritual relaxation. They stop praying, they stop fasting, they stop listening. They assume the battle is over. But what was exposed will often attempt to re-enter. The enemy doesn't give up easily. He simply looks for another door. If you're not spiritually alert, you may let the same spirit back into your life in a different body, voice, or opportunity. This is why you must remain vigilant. Your prayer life must continue. Your time in the Word must deepen. Your sensitivity must stay sharp. An essential part of maintaining protection is purifying your inner atmosphere. Bitterness, offense, and revenge can become back doors for the enemy. After exposure, you may be tempted to harbor anger or to seek payback. But these emotions don't protect you. They weaken your spiritual defenses. Forgiveness is not just about the other person. It's about cleansing your spirit from any residue of the enemy's influence. When you forgive, you cut the final cord that connects you to that spiritual attack. You declare that you are no longer emotionally or spiritually bound to what was sent to destroy you. In addition, you must begin to build stronger spiritual boundaries. Not everyone should have access to your thoughts, your dreams, or your direction. Keep your circle clean and your environment sanctified. Be slow to trust, quick to discern, and always led by peace. Spiritual boundaries are not walls of fear. They are lines of wisdom. When God reveals that someone was an agent of destruction in your life, He is also teaching you how to prevent future attacks. Protection is not just God's responsibility. It becomes yours through wisdom. Another way to maintain protection is through regular spiritual cleansing. This means setting aside time each week or month for focused prayer and fasting, asking God to purify your atmosphere, renew your mind, and restore your strength. Just as your body needs detox from time to time, so does your spirit. Life will attach things to you, words people spoke, places you visited, situations you engaged with. If you don't intentionally cleanse your spirit, you carry unnecessary weight. And weight is vulnerability. Finally, surround yourself with truth. Listen to teachings that uplift your spirit. Worship regularly. Stay connected to God's presence. Keep your ears tuned to His voice and your heart aligned with His will. The more you dwell in His presence, the harder it is for darkness to find a place in your life. When you are filled with light, anything that tries to hide in you is automatically exposed. So yes, exposure is powerful, but what matters most is what you do afterward. Do you return to old patterns, or do you step into a new level of maturity? Do you entertain what was revealed, or do you shut the door for good? Real spiritual growth is not just in seeing, it's in responding wisely. Maintain your protection by staying disciplined, staying connected, and staying clean. That's how you walk in lasting freedom, never again deceived by what once had access to your life.